I watched the first 3 episodes of The Rings of Power. I want to make just 2 points about this show regarding how successful it can be, because when you spend the most amount of money per episode ever in TV history, people care about how the show's doing. My first point is that this show is never going to reach the prestige TV status that Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, and now most recently The Boys have started to enjoy. Rings of Power just doesn't have the same level of interesting characters or plot that the other shows have. This is a show where all 3 of its main leads are just through and through morally good characters, deciding to fight a purely evil entity that wants to take over the world. As a society, we've moved past these stories. We want more complex characters and stories. Now, don't get me wrong, we don't only want stories about villains and anti-heroes. I mean, look at Ted Lasso and Captain America, who are main characters in shows that we love. However, Ted Lasso and Captain America is at least faced with complex adversities and portrayed by amazing actors, which is another thing holding Rings of Power back. Both Galadriel and Arondir are played by aggressively boring actors. Also, it's a bit weird that the creators are flaunting their diverse casting, but the first black elf is given the captured slave storyline. Now, the second point I want to make regarding the show's ability to succeed in the first 3 episodes I've watched so far is that they completely fumbled the release. There was a report that came out that said Amazon Prime's ability to successfully launch this $1 billion series will determine the future of the streaming service. And if they aren't able to successfully launch this show, then the company will reevaluate the purpose of Amazon Studios. Well, if that was the case, why was episode 3 not part of the premiere? Why were episodes 1 and 2 released and then a week later episode 3? Episode 3 was 10 times better than anything in the first 2. The action was better. Elves were actually doing their patented flippity flips. In fact, I'd wager that since most of this show is filled with beautiful and serene scenes, when Halbrand literally bloodies the camera as he murders fools with his bare hands, that action scene is more impactful than most of Game of Thrones because it's so different from the rest of the show. Episode 3 also established stakes, had an emotional beat that finally hit, and it actually ended with the villain tease. Episode 3 without a doubt should have been part of the show's premiere. I'm hooked on this show now, whereas after episode 2 I was indifferent about continuing to watch the show. I also watched The Invitation. The Invitation is what I am labeling as a bot movie. This is the type of movie artificial intelligence would tell executives to make if you give the machine a budget range, a genre, and some historical data about previous movies in this genre. It has all the cliches. The meta, bubbly, comedic best friend, 2 stereotypically beautiful leads, jump scares just to have jump scares, vampires for no reason other than that some of the masses automatically find them sexy, and the much worse version of the plot from 2019's Ready or Not. Now, I get it, films are usually originated as a bullet point list of what studio execs want. I have to know this as an MCU fan, but at least in the MCU, for example with Civil War, Kevin Feige probably just gave the writers and directors the title of the movie and then let them be creative and artistic and form a good movie. This felt like everything about the movie was designed by the output of a data scientist's machine learning model. This is what you should be mad at, Scorsese. I watched Office Spaces for the first time. This movie felt short, not in a, oh, I wanted more way, but more so that I didn't think there was enough story here to warrant a feature film. I think this would have worked much better as a recurring series of SNL sketches. Now, there was some great comedic bits when they depicted Michael Bolton jamming to hard rap on his morning drive and how the rest of that scene played out. I never felt more seen. I loved the running bit about Jennifer Aniston's flair and the bit with the fake blind cocaine salesman. Actually, I guess there were quite a few really funny bits in this movie. Also, was anyone else thrown off by the fact that Will Ferrell wasn't playing Bill Lumbergh's character? I also watched Untrapped, the Lil Baby documentary. I don't actually listen to Lil Baby, but every time he's on a feature like Wants and Needs or Pride is the Devil, his verses always hit hard. So that was enough to get me interested in this doc. They did a really good job of making the point that when you grow up in poverty, like Lil Baby did, you're dealt a really shitty hand and have little to no chance to grow out of it. They also portrayed really well the drug game and how appealing it is to young kids that grow up in such an area, and how that's not a problem only in Atlanta, but is mirrored across poor communities worldwide. What I didn't like though is how they portrayed Lil Baby's story at the end being that of a great American dream. How as appealing as the drug game can be, there's better ways to become untrapped. Now, as true as that was for Lil Baby, I think the doc should have highlighted other ways, other more realistic professions that you can pursue to get out of the trenches. Marlo, one of Lil Baby's friend and his original rap duo partner, as portrayed in this doc, is a prime example of how hard it is to actually succeed in rap. How music as a way out is only going to be realistic for 1 in a million people. There were also a lot of solid directing flourishes in this movie, like how there were multiple shots of Lil Baby just spending time with his kids or checking his mail, all of which kept reminding us that this was a story about the man behind the baby. There were also a lot of strong one-liners from news clips and interviews they got throughout this documentary. The quick Joe Biden clip was chilling. Placement of Lil Baby saying, "I knew I'd be big, but I didn't know how big," really drove home the point the movie was trying to make about poverty tends to stay poverty. Overall, this was a great documentary that's inviting to non-Lil Baby fans. But this doc and we as a society have to start highlighting realistic careers that kids can pursue to get untrapped.